3, 2, 1. We are live.
Are we live?
Not live. It's not. It's
Saving?
it's
No.
recording though.
Okay. We're recording.
We're not
It's live.
broadcasting.
Live, but
We'll
not
do it
live.
live.
So, yeah, we came up with a name.
A name for the podcast. You ready, Joe? You ready for this?
Ready.
Are you ready?
These
Days.
days.
That was horrible. That was like these.
Jordan didn't get the cue.
did not get.
It's
there was
way
no
too
cue.
long of a delay.
Yeah.
Let's try that again.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
You ready, Jarrell? You ready?
No, not touchdown.
You ready? These
Days.
days.
These days.
It's open-ended.
Open-ended.
Like,
So we could talk
interpret
about.
it as you will.
We could talk about the news. What's going on in the news
These days.
these days? How it used to be in those days that aren't these days anymore, and how it relates or translates to these days.
Yep.
Kids these days. That's
Yep.
that's a saying. I've heard that.
I think
before.
that was the inspiration behind it. I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, yeah, like fucking
But
these
it's like
days.
the world these days.
The world these days. It's fucking metaphorical, you know?
What was it?
Yeah. So here we are, these days.
Here we are, episode number 1.
Numero uno.
S1E1.
The
I don't know
alpha.
I don't know if it'd be seasons.
Yeah, we're not going to do
I don't think
seasons.
it is
Fuck
seasons.
seasons.
Seasons are like
Seasons are
TV
for
shows.
gays. And by gays, I mean not homosexuals, but like
In a derogatory
people that
sense.
fucking annoy me,
Yeah.
gays. I don't know if you should say that. We're gonna get to some interesting stuff in regards to that in a little bit.
Sound-alikes?
No, not sound-alikes.
Oh.
Black culture.
Oh, no, I don't think we should go
We're
there.
gonna get there.
Cut this part out.
That's what we're doing. That's what this is.
Not day one.
That's what
you
this
don't,
is.
You don't open up with that.
We're gonna. It's current events. It's current events, and it was
Yeah.
what I like to call shower thoughts. So I had a
Shower
shower
thoughts.
thought the other day, and it's weird because like
Got some
normal,
suds bubbling.
most people think of like really abstract and weird shit in the shower. Have you ever like been on the Chive and read the shower thoughts on there?
No,
You
I
have?
have not.
Yeah. Some people come up with some weird shit. You know what I do? I solve socioeconomic problems in the shower.
Yeah, you know what I do?
And-
I pretend I'm a superhero. Like,
Yeah. See, that's like some Chive shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or like, fucking what if, I can't even think of an example. What's a good example, Drill?
What if I could
Any off the top
fly?
of your head?
I can't think of them off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I
like,
just-
Ones that make you think like, oh yeah.
oh yeah.
Every time I'm in the shower, it's like a perfect opportunity to like be like Ryan Gosling from The Notebook. Like water's pouring
I
down
don't
my
know.
face. I'm
Can't
like,
relate. Never seen that
I've never
shit.
seen it either. I just have seen the cover.
Sounds pretty gay.
But it's like water's rolling down my face. I'm like, don't go.
Don't go. I think I know the scene.
romantic.
I know the
Totally
scene.
romantic.
I know the scene.
Crying in the rain. And then I'm really just in the shower.
Yeah, that's not me.
So you solve
Solving socioeconomic problems.
economic problems. Like
Yeah,
you could figure it out.
like how to fix shit that's wrong with the country. But we're gonna save that for a little bit. That's like fucking meat and potatoes shit right
Right.
there. We gotta start with apps.
Yeah,
Appetizers, man.
got to get that onion blossom.
Onion blossom, dude. You know who has suck ass onion blossoms? Is fucking Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Is not the same as the onion blossom
From
from
Outback.
Outback.
But you know what Texas Roadhouse does really good?
Rolls.
The rolls,
Dinner
and
rolls.
and their butter,
And the butter with cinnamon
yeah,
in it.
cinnamon butter.
Fucking A.
That's where it's at.
I think that's a unanimous thing. Like everyone can agree
Yeah.
that Texas Roadhouse has
You know what I never
the best
get from
rolls.
Outback Steakhouse or Texas Steakhouse or Texas Roadhouse, whatever it is?
steak.
Steak. I never get
Steak.
it. It's awful.
I get prime rib.
Yeah, I've been doing like from Texas Roadhouse. They have really good buffalo wings. It's pretty good.
Yeah, no. I don't know about that.
They do. Trust me.
I'll-
Try it next time.
All right, I'll dabble.
Dabble with the.
There's like cup holders or just cups for cups.
Yeah. Cup holders or cups for cups. Shower thought. Like dumb shit.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Simpleton.
Like
type
it's like
things.
an epiphany.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, whoa.
Like whoa, but then
Yeah.
If you drive too fast past a park or school, you're an asshole. If you drive too slowly, you're a creep.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that one. Yeah. You're fucked either way. You got to go just like whatever the posted speed limit is. Go exactly that.
Just some weird.
I just experienced that because I had to drive through a school zone. And you had to slow down to 15 miles an hour. It's like 15
15?
miles an hour will still kill a kid
Yeah.
if you hit them. think the concept is.
It gives you more time to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you see a kid and you're going 15, it takes
Shit,
less street to stop to 0.
I've thrown a kid out of a moving car before.
Have you?
No, I'm lying.
Okay. That's pretty interesting.
You would have believed it, though.
Let's expand on that.
You would have believed it. I've done some pretty crazy shit.
My sister's been run over by a vehicle.
That's pretty hardcore.
By a mutual friend.
Yeah?
Yeah. He was driving away in the car. She was holding on to the window.
Would this man's name rhyme with a derogatory term for Muslims?
I don't know derogatory terms for Muslims.
Durka Durka.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it would rhyme with it. It's an abbreviation. Yeah. But yeah, she was holding on to the side of the car. He was driving away, sped up, and she thought she let go, but then she didn't let go, and then her foot got caught by the tire.
How do you think you let go but didn't let go?
I don't know.
Like, how does that even fucking make sense?
She's weird.
That doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah.
I thought I let go.
I think
but really I was still holding
I have no
on.
idea. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Because her foot got kicked up by the rear tire, but if she was holding onto the front driver's side window.
That's a long way to stretch. Like, I don't even think I'm tall enough for that to happen.
I think she was only probably 10 or 11. Somewhere around there.
Interesting.
She went for a long way, too. It's because she just didn't let go.
Yeah. Went for quite a while.
Derek turned. He went this way.
I guess if you're in a situation like that, you panic and you probably just clutch on for dear life.
Yeah.
Because you think if you let go, you're fucked. It's probably the mentality.
Yeah. Like you find safety in clenching, like holding on for dear life.
I see it.
Of just letting go.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to let go.
That's the problem with people in life.
They don't
Sometimes
fucking let
they
go,
just
man.
Gotta let go.
They don't let go. They worry too much about what other people think.
Yeah, that's a big thing I've noticed.
Right?
Like it's I can see it in high school because I definitely played a part in it. And
yeah, because there's
to
cliques
some
and
extent.
shit, right?
Yeah, exactly. To some extent, I still do it a little bit, but not to the point. Like if I have to run out on a Saturday morning to the grocery store to get something, and I'm just in whatever.
You give zero fucks about everybody else.
Like I show up. I'm like, whatever. I don't care if they judge me. If they say, oh, what's this guy going on? It's like, you know what I got going on? I'm relaxing on my day off. That's what I got going on.
Fucking right, dude.
But there are some things that it's I don't know. I can't think of an example, but there's definitely times that I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's embarrassing.
They're going to look at me or they're going to
all
make
gonna
fun
laugh
of
at
me. They're
yeah.
all going to laugh at me. They're all going to laugh at me. No. That's one of the number one problems with a lot of fucking people is they give too much of a fuck about what other people think.
I think a lot of it too is their socioeconomic standing. Like people always want to feel like they're better than other people based on, and a simple way to do it is I make more than you. Which is something that you see it a lot because nowadays people are leasing they lease Mercedes or Lexus or whatever.
Right, as status icons.
They can't afford it if they're paying
Correct.
$500 a month on a lease. But when they show up to the gym or they show up to the office in their car, they're just look at me.
I'm the shit.
Yeah. And
I live in a studio apartment and can barely fucking afford rent.
My car's paid off.
Yeah.
I don't care what it looks like. I have no payment on that thing. So.
That's what people that don't have money don't understand is that the way that the rich stay rich is they don't fucking spend money.
Right. Yeah. Because if you spend it, you don't have it. And if you don't have it, you're not rich. So
correct.
Or at least well off.
That's why rich people are always hunting for tax breaks and shit because they want to keep more of their money to stay rich. They don't want to give it away, Right. And it's that's the concept that you don't understand until you have enough money to live comfortably that poor people don't understand.
Well, I think there's a weird line too because it's the more you make up to a point, the more you make, the more taxes you pay and you don't get any discounts on stuff. You don't get any oh, you qualify for this because whatever.
Right. You start getting shafted on you don't qualify for student loans, for school.
Exactly. A lot of stuff they're just you don't qualify for it because you make too much money, but at the same time you make more money, you have to pay a lot more stuff.
Right.
So it's in a way, unless you can go from either having nothing to having a lot, that middle class, that middle ground or whatever, it just gets screwed.
Pretty hard.
Yeah. So even grant programs or anything like that, it's oh nope, you don't qualify for any of this stuff. Health insurance is another one. On the you don't qualify for the ACA because you make too much money. So you have to spend thousands of dollars versus other people who make a little bit less than you or whatever the case may be. They don't have to spend that $1,000.
Right.
So in theory, they actually get more.
They get benefits.
Yeah, they get more benefits.
There's benefits to being poor and there's benefits to being rich, but there's not really benefits in the middle.
Yeah. So if you're the one doing the work, you're kind of screwed.
That's the thing is like middle class is working class. So, I mean, they're what makes the world go around essentially.
Right. And that's what's like, you would think that you would want to like bolster that. You know, like you think
that's the
idea. You want to reward those people because they're the ones, like for the rich, they're the ones doing the work that you don't want to do.
Correct.
You know, and then for the poor, they're the ones paying the taxes, so you could continue to get your benefits. Like, work with them.
Right.
So
it's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. I think I heard something the other day that was like, we're as a species, we're not designed to live in like these big groups. Like,
correct.
We're more for like smaller tribes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's that whole that law. I can't remember what the name of the law is, but it's like you can only know so many people. Like you can only remember like up to like 100. People. It's not even 500, dude. It's like 125, 150. It's like pretty low. So like, just as an example, people. It used to be like how many friends do you have on Facebook? How many followers do you have on Instagram? How many followers do you have on Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. Like once you get past 150, guaranteed any number past 150, you don't know the rest of those fucking people. So if you have 1,000 friends on Facebook, you don't really have 1,000 friends. They're more of acquaintances or people you've come across and maybe interacted with, but like they're not really your friends because you only have enough room in your brain for 150 people, period. Like, and when you forget about them because your brain can only store 150, like when you remember them, you just lost somebody that was in that 150. Like
someone else,
the least significant person, just got bumped off because you just, oh shit, I forgot about that person. And now guess what? You just forgot about somebody else now too. It's such a weird thing.
Yeah. But it's definitely, it's really weird too because, you know, we live in these like, you know, like really tight neighborhoods with like these cookie cutter houses and your neighbors like 5 feet away from you.
Yeah.
But like we don't ever interact with our neighbors.
Neither do I.
It's like, I don't know if it's, and it's not like we like hate them or hate people. It's just it's just another one of those relationships. Where in the day are we going to fit this in? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
What's the dynamic?
Not enough fucking time.
Do I have to like now start saying hi? Like, you know, I could do the nod. I do that. I see a neighbor, I'll wave, I'll give them a nod. It's like, we live in the same place. But are you going to start asking me like, watch your kids or something? Like, I don't got time for that.
I don't got time to watch your dogs while you're out of town.
Exactly.
I'll keep an eye on your house.
Yeah.
Like if some shady ass motherfucker's walking down the sidewalk in front of your house, shining lights on it, peeking through the windows.
Yeah, but
I'll probably go out there and fucking with a samurai sword and be like, yo, I'll chop your dick off, motherfucker.
There really could be like something, because I don't know if it's like, we don't have any windows really that face like the front of our house except for upstairs.
Yeah.
But when we're not, the only time we go upstairs is when we go to sleep.
Right.
Or like getting ready for bed or whatever. So most of our time we spend downstairs. So there really could be like a mass murder going on in the street out in front of my house. I would never know unless they like crossed a noise threshold. So if they were being quiet about it.
Yeah.
So if someone was
people with knives.
If someone was breaking into my neighbor's house, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Like I just, whatever. I'd tell them to shut up. Like, you know, because I don't know them that well to know that. Like I see some guy climbing into a window. Maybe that's what they do. Maybe they're into that. And then if I call the cops, then I'm the jerk, right? Like I'm like,
could be.
Why don't I just mind my own business? But no, I think it's crazy though. Like we're driving around all these people. We're just in like so like compact and like just condensed as a population. But it's still, it just feels like it'd be better if it was like a lot less. Like not like wipe them out, but like there's so much more land. Like almost instead of having
spread out a little bit.
Yeah, spread out. Well, a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like you know, we have so much like empty land. It would almost be better if there was like smaller. I mean, the problem though is that people don't want to give up. There's benefits to the masses, like Prime Now. I don't know if you're familiar with Prime Now or not. I was talking to someone about it just the other day.
And Amazon Prime, it's like a really fast delivery service.
It's a 2-hour, like less than 2 hours, like within 2 hours.
Right,
like really
you order something and they deliver it to you.
I mean, there's been times like if I'm getting off work late or whatever, and I'm like, man, I need to get something, and I don't want to stop by at the store because I don't want to have to deal with the parking and the, you know, because there's traffic, and then everyone's hurried to get home. Like everyone's already mad. They just want to get home, so they're cutting people off or whatever.
Right.
Then you go into the store and it's more of the same. People are mad about being in a store with pushing a shopping cart. So they're just like trying to push off and, you know, get in front of people and whatever, do what they have to do. Just go on Prime Now and can very easily just order it. And usually by the time I get home or shortly after I get home, it's being delivered at my front door.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit of being in a heavy or a highly populated area, is you get like those kind of perks and stuff.
Correct.
Infrastructure is another thing. Like, even though our infrastructure is kind of like, you know, behind the times and needs updating.
And it's oversaturated.
Way oversaturated.
Yeah.
But I find like, you know, like with internet or whatever, being in a place where we can actually get gigabit internet is fascinating to me, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, there's definitely trade-offs. And would people be willing to give up those conveniences and those luxuries for more space? And I don't know. I don't know if people would.
No, definitely not. They definitely would be completely opposed to it.
Yeah.
I was talking with somebody the other day, and we were given like hypotheticals, like if we went back to a barter system, like how many people would be fucked because they have no like skills that can be traded for something else.
Yeah.
Then I was like sitting there thinking about like my current situation. Say everything stayed the same, like you're doing what you're doing now. We didn't change career fields or anything, but all of a sudden there was no money and you had to trade your services for other services. And so the idea was that I'd be all right because I work in a hospital environment, right? And so my trade skill is IT. So I provide IT services to a hospital. And then I was thinking like, well, how does the barter system work with that, right? Like, what would the hospital have to offer me in exchange for my services? But then I got to thinking, there's layers to this shit. So hospital would be somebody to do, like, it would be a good idea to do work for them because they get people from all walks of life. Right. Everybody needs healthcare. Yeah. So those people that are seeking healthcare are going to trade something to the hospital in exchange for healthcare.
But in a sense, it's like, that's kind of what we're doing now.
They have a stockpile of random miscellaneous stuff, right, that might not be able to be used right then. Do I just get like, they start trading me that stuff in exchange for my services?
Sure, they give you like an IOU for, like, some guy's a lawyer and you have to, you know, you need legal help. Right. You go to the hospital and they're like, here, we'll give you this if you do this for us. Right. This is good at, you know, whoever Johnson & Johnson's legal attorney thing or whatever. Yeah, but I mean, in a sense, that's what we kind of do now. Like, dollars and stuff, it's fiat money, so it's like not real. It's not backed by anything other than the fact that you go work, you do something at the hospital, they give you in return money that you can then take to other people, and there's supposed to be a cycle. So say you go to like a restaurant and you eat, and the waiter has to go to the hospital to get some surgery. They pay him money, and there's that money just circling through the economy. Right. The only difference is in a trade system is that you could have anyone just create this like money, if you will, from nothing, versus now it's a central bank who kind of controls that and how much there is in flux and all that stuff.
Yeah, which is super corrupt.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not.
But this is like a strong argument for cryptocurrency, essentially.
Yeah, it kind of pushes that in a sense that you could create your own cryptocurrency with what you do, and it would just be accepted into the market, type of thing. But I think that's how all of it started. If we were to say, okay, we're getting away from the dollar today, we're going back to a trade system, very quickly it would be like, okay, well, I'll just write you an IOU that you can then give to someone else, and then, you know, it kind of trades around. Eventually it's going to be like, well, these IOUs are hard because it's like a gift card. You have to use it at this store. Right. Like, oh, you can get a Visa gift card and it's accepted everywhere.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And then it just turns back into another money system, and then you just shift the power. And I think humans are always susceptible to power because you always have egos. You always have pride. It's that thing we were talking about earlier. People care too much about what other people think.
Yeah, exactly.
And you get people that are so insecure with themselves that the only way they can feel better is to see that they mean something more than the other insignificant speck next to them. Yeah. And they do that by hurting their life. They say, oh, you want that new fancy car? Not if I have anything to say about it. I'm going to jack up these interest rates to make you lose it. And that's like how, you know, the problem would just start all over again.
Oh, for sure. And in the meantime, all those people with zero marketable skills starve to death because they have nothing to trade for food. Right. Like, Yeah, what a weird system.
Yeah, you would almost
it almost doesn't work at all anymore. We're way past that point,
right?
Essentially,
and to some extent, I mean that's kind of what's going on now. I mean, you have people because like when I hear of people that that they're on welfare, they can't they can't work. Maybe they're disabled or whatever the case may be, right? They didn't have the right opportunities or enough opportunities, or maybe they did, because there's definitely people that had every opportunity in the world and they just like flushed it away, right? Mm-hmm. Meth is a hell of a drug. I completely get that. But I think there are definitely some people, because I've seen some who they're hardworking and they have great work ethic. They just have never been in a situation where they could perform and be rewarded for their type of work, Right. So they're stuck in a position where they are dependent on like assistance or what have you. And they're in theory starving to death,
Yeah.
Like maybe not quite literally, but more metaphorically, that they're suffocating.
Yeah, because they're stuck typically.
Yeah, they can't change their situation, because what do? You can't go anywhere.
Right.
But at the same time, you still have obligations and bills to pay, mouths to feed if you have children or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's definitely
perfect segue into my shower thought then.
Okay.
Because this is where I was going with this.
Just napalm them.
So what I was thinking was, like, obviously there's a problem in, like, the ghetto, hood, streets, whatever you want to fucking call it. And it's like a cultural issue, really, because the only way to fix it is from within. Because I was thinking about this, like, the other day. I was, like, watching a movie, and they were shooting, like, a scene in Compton. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, there's no fucking way a white person's going to go to Compton and not get fucked up. So how are these people shooting a movie there? Because it's not staged. It's like on location. I'm like, how are they not getting fucked up right now? So somewhere in there was an agreement. And one common thread that I noticed throughout any movie that has to do with like that has like scenes in Compton is there's always this one fucking guy, never credited on IMDb, but he's always in all these movies. And it's this one black dude, and he plays like basically a gangster. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there, I'm like, this guy's in every fucking movie where they got to shoot a scene in Compton. I bet you he's the fucking dude that they get in contact with to keep everybody shooting the movie safe and like keep that area from popping off while those people are there, right? So I start researching, and sure as shit, that's exactly what this dude is. He's like a fucking blood from the fucking Bloods, and he got involved in Hollywood and hooked up. Like, he had an interest, and he's like an activist and everything, and like he's like doing community outreach and like getting to these people and trying to like reduce the violence inside the like low income neighborhoods and stuff. But then that got me thinking, I'm like, yeah, that's like, unless you have money to pay to like go in there and like do community service for those people for protection, Yeah. Like, you can't just go and help these people. Like, even if you're a white dude and you want to help the black community, you can't, because you're going to get fucked up if you go there. Right. Like, that's just the racial divide that exists. So the only people to fix those issues are people that live there from within, because there's like a barrier around there, you know what I mean? And I think it's two systems clashing. So like black people fear the police, right? Typically. Yeah. Like that's just the run of the mill thing right now is like police suck and they're all out to shoot black people, and that's where the Black Lives Matter movement started and everything that. And it's like, I think at the root, Black Lives Matter was like a good thing, and then it got hijacked by people, and it's spiraled out of control. Now and the ego and power and shit that came with running an organization that has backing like that from such a large community, it's turned into something corrupt that it never was intended to be. Right. And so that's why sometimes like people that I'm friends with that are African American, they have mixed feelings on Black Lives Matter, because they're like, I support the movement, but I don't support it because
some of the individuals have given it a bad name type of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So I guess the point that I was trying to make is like these two systems are clashing, and like we get a bunch of backlash for not being like white privilege is like we don't recognize like the shit that's going on there and everything like that. Well, we can't even get in there to see it firsthand or do anything about it. So you can't really hold that against people that even if they wanted to help can't.
Right.
You know?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier as well, is that most of those people are probably just stuck.
Yeah.
Like it's not, I wouldn't say every single people in those, or every single person in those communities is like, oh, we don't like you, we don't want you here. They probably don't care. They have their own problems and, you know, they're whatever they're trying to do with it.
Right.
But there's some people who they figured out a way to control that, to turn the narrative to their favor,
and they take you as a threat when you come in.
And they use it to promote, like when you go in there, then it's like, look what these guys are trying to do. It's like, then it becomes like this hate thing, you know, type of thing.
Yep. They're trying to take over. Right. Like, no, we're trying to help out.
But
you just don't want us to dethrone you as the power structure.
Once you start helping those individuals, the people that are in those power, they no longer are.
Right.
And that they don't get their whatever it is that they're getting from it.
Exactly.
You know? Because even though it's like they might not necessarily be getting like millions of dollars, but they are definitely in a position where they run the world in that
confined space. Exactly.
Like no one's going in there to question their authority. They can walk around there the top dog, you know, regardless of if they have whatever access to, you know, they're not driving around in like Lamborghinis or anything like that. But the second you go in there to try to remove that little bit of power that they have, then they get intimidated and they don't want that, you know. So.
Oh yeah, you definitely starting shit basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you solve that? Like that,
that's what I'm saying.
No one's focusing on that. That's not the debate, but that's the root of the fucking problem.
But I also think too, because again, once you start saying that and you say we need to get into these communities and break up these powers, then it's like, yeah, we need to do this all over the place. We need to do this in Washington.
Yeah,
and everything.
Yeah, it's applicable to everywhere.
So what happens is I think that very much the people in power in like the political places or even corporations or whatever, they very much can see it. So they push the narrative to make it a race thing and a hate thing, you know.
Definitely.
And that way it gets people talking, it gets people reacting to that instead of people sitting down having a conversation and being like, well, how can we resolve this? Because you don't have to agree with everything someone says, but you just want to live your life.
Yeah.
Know? So if you just sit down and be like, okay, we both want to live our life. How can we do that
in peace
and work out what's better for everyone?
Right.
And then once that happens again, then, you know, these big powers that are there, like whether it's government or corporations or whomever, Illuminati, if you will, they don't want that to happen. They don't want that to be a thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Destabilizes their power structure that they have in place. And I'm sure like these dudes fucking Illuminati, if you will.
Yeah.
They like, and I say them. The others.
Us versus them. But see, what I'm saying, even in this argument, it is very much an us versus them discussion. And it might not necessarily, you know, that is another part of the problem, is that everyone wants a team. Everyone wants, I'm on this team, we're fighting. You know, everything I've heard recently, like in some of the big things that have been going on, is like, oh, you're on the wrong side of history. It's like, well,
what?
Wrong side of history is always a after the fact thing anyway.
For sure.
So it can't be history unless we have this to then say this is where the line
to make
was.
History, right?
Well, and then to say this is looking back on this now, that's the wrong side.
I guess that implies that you're on the wrong side and that you're gonna lose,
right?
And the fight's not even been decided yet. Yeah.
But it's something that each side is saying to the other side.
Yeah.
Because they firmly believe it. And there's nothing wrong with having
left and right, man. Like,
well, in anything.
They're obviously not as bad as like terrorist extremists, but man, this country.
But in a sense, they kind of are, because you live in fear. You have terror to do things because, you know.
True.
It might not be for
small
your life.
Small scale terrorism.
Right. It's domestic terrorism.
Mental terrorism, emotional terrorism. Let's not even get started on emotions, dude.
Yeah.
Freaking.
Let's not.
Let's not, or we should. People are pussies.
Yeah.
That's basically what it comes down to, is there's a generation of pussies coming up in the world.
Millennials.
I didn't want to say it, but thank you.
Yeah. It's just
so.
It's again though. It's not. I wouldn't say that it's an all everything, but there's definitely.
It's definitely not.
There are some people who feel like they're entitled to everything.
Yeah, we're millennials. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did.
Well, we're on like the cusp.
We're on like the back, like the
front end of it. That's gonna get phased out, you know, into full-fledged like diehard millennials, but like we're on the cusp. And so like, because we were born in the late 80s, like we still have like, we're half and halves kind of like we can see and understand and relate to millennials to some degree, but then we have the values of like our parents, whatever those may have been, you know, from a different generation. And the problem is that the millennial values and that shit, like the full-fledged hardcore ones that are super entitled and like live their whole life revolves around social media and drama and shit. Yeah. That's bad.
But it goes back to that whole approval thing. You know, like my wife and I, well, not so much me, but I've had a couple people ask, but like my wife says that she has friends who ask her like, are you still married? And she's like, yeah. And it's because we never post anything really on social media. Yeah, like we don't really live in that sphere. Like we're perfectly fine just living our own lives.
Right.
But because we're not on social media, a lot of people think like, ooh, what's wrong with you? Like, you know, type of thing.
I'm not involved in your life. I don't know every detail of your relationship, so you must not have one. Are you
like, I've seen people on Facebook that literally they fight each other in the comments. Like they yell at, like someone will start a post.
Right.
Then their significant other will reply, and then they just start yelling at each other, calling each other names, and you're just like, this is not the correct place to do this.
It's not the platform, people.
I'm trying to find cat memes and like, you know, whatever. Like, I don't want to read this. Like, but there's definitely people that then they read it and then they feel like they're involved now. And I think that gets to that 150 people that you can only remember.
Yeah.
Social media is kind of a way to trick the brain to think that you know a lot more people than you really do.
Right.
Because you can read a comment or Facebook update and then suddenly you're like, I know exactly what's going on in that person's life. We're BFFs.
Right.
And then you can go to work or you can go whoever to another group of friends and be like, oh yeah, I have this friend who did this. Very similar to how I started the story. Like I have this buddy who does this. I only ever really see because of what he posts online. The last time I had a conversation with him is years ago.
Right, exactly.
So does he even really qualify as a buddy at this point?
Right.
But I think that's the illusion that social media plays.
It's really weird.
And then you have all these young people that are only living their lives there.
Like, it's wrong. It's like super weird.
Because when I was a kid and growing up, even in high school, like the internet was there, but it was very much like
you had to ride your fucking bike down the street and knock on your buddy's door.
Yeah,
and he might not be there.
I remember hanging out with people all the time. Well, I wouldn't think it was that bad. We would call them on the landline. Yeah, and then you'd get their parents and be like, "Hey, is Joe there?" I'm like, no, he's out. Oh, where's he at? He's over at Tyler's house. Okay, well, I'm gonna go over to Tyler's house. Like, you know, like
exactly.
Yeah, you had to like investigate.
Yep.
Now it's just like you send a group text, where are you guys?
Right.
And then it's like, okay, let me get an Uber and I'll be right there. Like but I don't necessarily think that it's inherently bad. I think that there's a lot of benefits to that as well. But I think that without control, because I've seen one thing that irritates me the most is like we'll be out in a grocery store, you know, walking around and whenever we go with my daughter, she's never allowed to look at a phone or a tablet or whatever.
Right.
We walk down the aisles and we look at stuff. We're out in the world.
Yeah.
And we'll see like this other, you know, family that's there, and the kid who's like my daughter's age is literally just sitting in the cart with their heads down into a Kindle or some sort of tablet.
Yeah.
They're watching something or playing like a game that's like pointless.
Yeah.
So disconnected from the world.
Yeah.
And so, and it's something that just drives me crazy because it's like, I'm not saying that you can't do that, but they have to experience every aspect of life.
Everything in moderation, even moderation.
Right. Yeah. So it's one of those things that I think, so you have this group, this generation of kids, if you will. I mean, we call them kids, obviously. They're fucking kids. They're growing up now.
They're children.
Well, maybe mentally.
They're 22-year-old children.
But when you were 22, you were probably not saying I'm a child.
Yeah, but I was not living that life either, you know?
Right.
22 years old.
What I'm saying, though, is like you can't base your personal experiences and say that that's what's right for everyone. I mean, you figure humanity's been here for hundreds of thousands of years, and there's always, you know, like when the ball first came out and some kid was bouncing it and you had the elders being like, look at those guys. They're wasting their time.
I get it. It sounds like old-timey shit, but at the same time, like, we're from the perspective where half of our life we grew up without it, and then the other half, which is now, we've had it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. We've acclimated, whereas these people, like our parents, they're probably like computer illiterate and
to
type
some extent,
with 2 fingers. Like they're not even close to our level, you know?
Right.
Except for like the pioneers of the industry.
Sure, or they do it as like their career.
Correct.
Is they're doing that.
But then you have kids that have known nothing but that their entire freaking lives.
I was talking to one of my wife's nieces like a couple weeks ago, like around like the holidays, and they were talking about Snapchat. And you know, I know what Snapchat is. I'm not like on it all the time. Like I usually send it to like my sisters and my wife, and that's
right.
About it. Like I don't even do like the stories. It's always just like the direct.
Never even
stuff.
Opened or downloaded the app.
Yeah, I mean, I did it because it's like you can make silly faces, and my daughter likes to do that, you know, type of thing.
Yeah.
And so she was telling me like at school, like they block Snapchat like in their like on their internet stuff. So like when you connect your phone to their Wi-Fi, they blocked it, so you can't use it.
Makes sense.
So she's like, so it's just okay though. All we do is we get a VPN and then we can do it that way.
Jesus Christ.
And so it's like, and I don't know how. I think she's like 15 or something like
15-year-olds knowing how to VPN people.
But like, yeah, it's like these 15-year-olds that can set up. So it's not like there's lacking intelligence. You know what I mean?
No,
like, they clearly can do it. But I think the problem is there's this instant gratification with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah,
like especially Snapchat, you send it and it's there instantly.
Right.
You know? Like one of the ongoing jokes that I have in my family is that we're going to get to a point where kids are going to like, there's going to be an app that comes out. And like what it is, it's like you connect with a person and you just hear their voice live.
Yeah.
And these kids are going to talk about this thing. Like, this is so cool. Like I just press your name and then I can talk to you. Like just voice, like it's just voice. And I talk to you, you hear me, what I'm saying instantly, and you can say something back.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, yeah, like a phone?
Like
no,
a phone.
not a phone.
Like
this is the app. It's this cool app. Like, it's going to get so bad. It's going to go full circle.
Dude, it's definitely going to go full circle. But that means like, that to me, that sounds like going full retard, essentially. Like, really? Like, you just like repackage something in a way that makes it look different, but it's the exact same thing.
Right.
It's like, it's not that hype. It's not that cool.
But as like a civilization, we already do that.
Dude.
Like organic.
The future.
Like
I just read it.
Organic water. Like I was literally.
Organic water.
I'm not even kidding though. I've seen it in stores. It's like it says
Get
like
the fuck out of
organic water, and it's like
but people came from a spring.
Yeah.
Like most water that's in a bottle.
Yeah.
No, I read the future because I'm reading this book, Ready Player One.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Like the movie.
The movie's coming out. So I'm reading the book, and man, this book, complete mindfuck. Virtual reality at its finest. You wear these haptic gloves and like this visor that shoots lasers into your eye and like simulates reality, like almost to the T.
Right.
Like it's freaky. And then there's like a whole bunch, like that's like the bare minimum. You sit in like a chair or whatever. But then like there's like upgrades to that where you can do like those crazy treadmills where you're like you can run but you're running in place. I can't remember what they're called.
What do you mean? Like a treadmill?
Like but like it's 360 degree movement.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But like you're stationary.
Sure.
Like in the book there's like those type of things that you can buy in addition to upgrade your setup and everything, right? But basically the concept is there's this virtual reality world and it's called the Oasis, and the whole world is war-stricken and energy-starved. So they're literally starved because there's not enough, like, they ran out of fossil fuel, so, like, no one uses, like, cars anymore. Like, like it's really crazy. So because no one uses cars and it's too expensive to buy gas and shit, everybody lives in this virtual world, and basically, like, virtual currency is like greater than the dollar outside of like virtual currency is more valuable than real currency, right?
Okay.
And the whole premise to the book is like the guy that created like the VR world is completely free. It's open source. And the guy that created it dies and leaves a last will and testament and like hid an Easter egg in this virtual world for people to find. And there's like 3 keys, and if they find 3 keys and unlock the thing, they inherit this dude's wealth, which is like $500 billion, and they become the CEO of his company, which is the most valuable company in the world.
And they take ownership of this virtual reality world.
Yeah, to do with what they will, right?
So
and
they could keep it open source, or they could try to privatize
correct,
it or something.
Correct. So The ISP, there's only one, and they're like the biggest in the world, the world's ISP. They're known as like the Sixers. I can't remember what the company's name is, but like they're called Sixers because their like employee IDs start with 6. And they basically, because there's no real rules to this competition, they like cheat and shit. And like their goal is to take over and win the competition so that they own the virtual world and they can monetize it and like add revenue and all that shit, right? But what's fascinating about the book is like the guy that created the virtual world, like he grew up in the 80s, so everything there is like largely inspired by 80s shit.
Right.
And it's kind of cool and funny. And then like they talk about, because it's in the future, like
2025,
something like that, right? So like World of Warcraft exists and like all these like pop culture icon type deals, they're like old at this point,
right?
But they're in the world and they're like the ground floor for like this virtual world, and they have like virtual reality MMOs now and shit like that,
right?
But like the concept of like people living in this virtual world, essentially, like you wake up and you go to work in the virtual world and shit like that, like, dude, that's got to be the future.
Right.
It's like the start of simulation theory.
Well, that's what I was just going to get to. Is like, that, who's to say that that's not what happened?
That's the thing. Yeah, that
like, who's to say like that's where we're getting, and then we wanted to go back and live at the start of like the creation of the internet, right?
Yeah.
So we might already be in that, or we're the precedent. Sorry, I can't think of the word. We are
precipice.
Like, well, like we're like the. Predecessor. Thank you. I was trying to think of predecessor to that, like becoming a reality.
Yeah, but then you got to think like, if we're at it now, have we already been there?
Right.
And if we had, like, how many times? Well, and then it's like Inception, or what's the proper term? Fractal. It's fractal.
Yeah, fractals. Yeah.
And like that's
just
crazy.
Like we were talking about, like going full circle with like the phone, you know, like that may be like a micro example where like our reality or our community or whatever environment might be the macro. Like we get to this point,
right?
We create this machine, we go into it, and we restart over, and then it's like that. The machine gets to a point where they create their own thing, and it's just a simulation within a simulation within a simulation, just forever, you know.
Yep.
And the Big Bang is turning on the machine. You know, like the first electrons flowing into the machine to give it power.
But like that all can be applied to that fucking black community shit too. You know, it's like it's a cycle that's been set up. It's obviously a system.
Yeah. Well, and I like to think too, like with you know, you have these what's referred to as like the inner city communities or the projects, if you will. The same thing with like you have with like these millennials is that they behave very, very similar in how like they want to do things, you know. And again, it's just at the end of the day, they just want to live their lives, but the system or whatever that is almost made in a way for them to fail. It's inherently broken.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, getting back to like the people living in like the virtual reality stuff, I mean, I honestly think that that's where we'll be, maybe not to that extent, but you already have people going into online games as a form of escape because their real life sucks.
Yeah, for sure. Have you seen VR chat on Twitch?
I have not, no.
Oh my gosh, dude. It's pretty crazy. It almost makes me want to get VR.
Yeah.
Because you can completely customize your own avatar and go into it's just a chat room essentially, but virtual reality, and like
so it's like you're kind of walking around and seeing other people in the chat room.
Yeah, and they're crazy ass avatars, and people go like next level crazy inside of here.
But I think like the creation of that, you know, it speaks to like what we have as humanity inside of us to create and be creative, as also like our imagination, you know. And that's why I think like these amazing pieces of technology, or like what just happened in Hawaii, you know, like the missile test thing or whatever. Like we always like to think of like government or like these big powers as like they're these crazy superhuman. They're not. They're just people. Yeah. They made a mistake.
Average dudes.
They're just average people. And so everyone is susceptible to that kind of, you know, behavior, and no one's special. But I think at like the core, anyone can create or can think of these things, you know, like like the smartphone or you know, microphones or computers or whatever the case, VR.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like a physical technology aspect of it, but even still, like people who create these apps, I've seen some like mods to games that have just been phenomenal. That are like almost
probably better than the original. Exactly.
Like, and so it's just people who are just like they might be bored, they might have an idea, they just whatever.
That means they have time on their hands, luxury. Right. If that's their hobby, then they're in a place where they can afford to do that as a hobby.
Or they can afford it. Their life sucks. Like maybe they're not doing too well in school, so as their escape is they're just going to dump all of their time into creating this world that they can escape to. That's better than their real life.
Well, it benefits the world to have more people being able to do that too, and by having these fucked up systems in place,
right?
Like the inner city, where it's just a perpetual cycle of like, unless you fucking make it as a rapper or a fucking pro athlete, like you're probably not getting out of there.
Sure.
Like that whole thing is holding people back, and that's my biggest issue with it. Is like you're holding us back because you always hear the fucking thing like, oh, that person died at such a young age. They might have been the fucking person to cure cancer.
Right.
Like there's probably 1 million people alive right now that could probably cure cancer right now.
Yeah.
They just don't have the opportunity.
Or more. I mean, you figure there's 7.5 billion people.
Probably
on this planet,
more.
Because right now we're only talking about a small section.
Oh yeah.
You're talking 350 some million people in America.
Right.
And that's tiny compared to the population of the Earth. But there's countries out there that, like North Korea is a perfect example.
Right. How many people
are
super
literally
smart there
taking gunshots just to try to get out of there.
Yeah.
And they survive because they have they have nothing,
the willpower to get out of that situation.
They're so desperate. It's either I die here or I die for freedom.
Right.
And they fight, and it's crazy. And there could be people out there right now that their mind works in a way that we can't even comprehend, that they could see things in a new light. They can create, or they can cure things or whatever. And they'll never have the opportunity to present that because the systems are designed to keep them down.
Right.
So,
well, if we free these people, if I say free, like they're slaves or something, but if we free them up to be able to do this type of shit, like that's the ultimate goal, like progress.
Right.
That's where I take issue with this shit mainly, is like we're stifling progress because everyone should be contributing.
Right. Well, I mean, even if you look at something as simple as like, solar power, electric vehicles or stuff like that, a lot of the companies that are like trying to stop those progression are the ones that are in like the oil industry.
Coal stuff. Power plants. Like what a fucking stupid, like prehistoric thing.
And they don't want to change. They want things to be the way that they were.
Their livelihood's attached to it, though. So I understand their thing,
agree
but
completely.
At the same time, it's like you were smart enough to learn about coal.
Well, but it's not even so much smart enough. It's like if you're in the forefront of tech, like energy with coal burning plants and stuff, and you hear about this new thing, solar, you have the opportunity, you have the capital to jump in on it. You have the
you're talking from like high level.
Yeah, high level. You can hire the best electrical engineers to figure this stuff out. So that when the time comes, because a lot of these companies, they were startups. They were people that were like, let's try to do this.
So the issue isn't them, it's the people that would be put out of work. Like you're adding to unemployment.
But not necessarily, because you can, like, there's more jobs in solar than there are in coal. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
But you could like make it a thing, like as a company, you have almost like the responsibility to say, look, guys, we're going to do coal as long as we can because we know it works. But in the meantime, we're going to be doing the solar thing. We're going to be providing classes, or if anyone's interested,
to transition
over.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at that point, you would be saving the jobs, and you'd potentially be creating more, because it's like, you have a guy who's mining coal or whatever.
Yeah.
He could easily be a technician or an installer of solar panels, but he doesn't necessarily know how they work. So you have someone else that you hire.
So he's opposed to it. Like as soon as he, like, there's a piece of information that's like, I don't understand. They're like, fuck that. I don't want anything to do with it. Let's just stick with what I know. You know what I mean?
Well,
like, how do we break through the people that are opposed to innovation?
Well, but I think like those people, they're gonna be stagnant anyway. I watched this documentary where they were interviewing like ex-coal employees because they got laid off anyway.
Yeah.
There's just no money there to support their jobs anyway. So, and they were saying, we would love to learn solar. Like they said they have no issue with it. They would just love to learn. They would love to learn it. They would love to work on it in any facet, whether it's installing it or research, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But they lose their jobs. They don't have money to go to school. And, you know, like
But they do, because we already proved that earlier.
Well, yeah.
You lower your income, then you start qualifying for all those grants. The thing is, though,
that's messed up is, say, like, you know, 2017 just ended. You file your 2017 taxes. Mm-hmm. Let's say you made $100,000 in 2017. When you go to apply for anything in 2018, like, you get laid off January 1 of 2018. So you didn't make a single cent in 2018.
Right.
So you're like, I want to go apply for welfare.
So you have to figure out how to survive for a year.
You show your taxes for 2017, like, you don't qualify for this. So you have a whole year to go to prove that you don't make any money. So, but again, that's the system that's broken. Like, you would think, like, yeah, okay, that's what I made when I had a job.
Those are the type of people, those are the welfare people, I did air quotes, that I want my money going to help them transition through that period. The people that, like, are motivated to do the work and want to transition and get out of coal and go into solar or whatever, for example. Like, I want to be able to provide them that buffer rather than somebody that doesn't have any desire to work but is completely able to, and they're just cool with collecting checks.
Right. Well, and two as well, and you know, getting back to, like, the generational thing, some people collect checks because that's what their parents did, and now they're having children, and they're going to do the same thing because they don't have anything, because the systems, again, in those communities, they gather, and they just think that's how you live your life.
Right.
You know, very few, like in that, you know, some people might get scholarships or whatever, and they try really hard, and they get jobs. I'm not saying everyone who's in that situation.
And they make it.
And they get out, you know.
Right.
But I would say that a lot of times, some of those people, they just feel, because, you know, their whole life they're probably called stupid because they didn't, when they were growing up, they didn't have money to, like, pay for, like, books or other things.
Right.
So they didn't have the opportunities. So their whole life they're called stupid, or they're unable to do stuff. They're not trained. So they grow up, they collect the checks, they have children, and they can't provide the same things for their children. And maybe they're trying to work as, like, whatever, but they're constantly, like, their boss knows,
it's like a dead end job.
They're poor, like they're working at McDonald's, like they don't care about their employees, you know, type of thing.
Yeah.
And so they work at McDonald's, and then something happens, someone messes up an order, and the guy ordering a sausage biscuit with cheese doesn't get his cheese and loses his mind, yelling at the guy, calling him, like, a, you know, reject of society because he forgot to put cheese on it. Like, how hard can that be, you know, type of thing, like, just making him feel bad.
Yeah, just perpetuates
the issue.
Yeah.
And then he goes home and he's like, you know, telling his kids, like, yeah, you know, you'll never make it in this life, so you might as well get used to it now. So they grew up like, okay, what do I even try for? And it's a problem, you know, like, starting at all levels of society. So
it's such a hard thing to, like, wrap your head around, but, like, that's, like, those are the actual problems. That's not, like, all this other shit is bullshit. Like, that's the root, you know? And, like, I think if you had enough people thinking about how to solve the root of the problem, like, the problem would go away.
Yeah.
And you got to convince enough people of an actual problem.
But I think the problem, too, is then when you start giving people power to start investigating the root of the problem, that power
veers off.
It's going to inflate, and they're gonna swing the pendulum extreme in another area.
So fucked up, man.
And that's the problem, is that I don't necessarily know if there's, like, a one solution.
There's definitely not one solution.
I don't think there's one size fits all, you know.
Yeah.
Because one thing I've been hearing a lot of recently is like you know, I can't remember like a base income, essentially.
Yeah.
You know,
what do they call that shit?
Like, I can't remember what the
universal.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Is like universal base income or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the problem is that if you give everyone the same thing, then you will have, just like, you know, there's some people that inherently want to do more. Like, they're overachievers, if you will.
Right.
So if you reward them with the same thing that someone who has no motivation, the guy that, like, shows up, you know, he clocks in and he's just like, I'm just going to sit here for, like, an hour to warm up to start my day. And you have people that are getting there early, and they're just, from the second they start, they just go. and you reward them both the same. It's where's the motivation? At what point do you kind of
do better? Yeah,
you create like these robots. It's like, well, I'm not going to try because
the system. It's another system.
Another system.
It's just all fucking systems, man. Yeah. Who started these systems?
Right.
Those motherfuckers are dead, or else we should fucking find them.
But I think like if you go back like to when humans first started, like they started realizing, you know, if we stick together and we hunt. Type of thing, you know, we stick together and they learn the seasons. Oh, if we plant this now and we all work together, we can get a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like instead of we get one plant that can maybe feed, you know, half of our family, we can manage a whole crop.
Right.
Between the 6 of us or whatever, you know, the 10 of them that there were, and they can get 20 times as much food because they're all working together to achieve this stuff.
Yep.
It was the fundamental basics of working together. Cooperation.
Yep.
But then it just starts, it gets bigger so that then you're like, well, now we can sell like our crops to those people, the bartering system.
Yeah.
And then you have one person that's like, well, let me manage this negotiation. You guys go managing the crops. I'm going to go negotiate. And now this person is like, look, I'm the representative here. I'm speaking on behalf of 20 people.
Fuck that guy.
Right. But what I'm saying is like, it doesn't matter if his intent was like
good or bad. Yeah.
It's the inherent problem with humans. I think like humans need to evolve to get past ego, to get past like selfishness and greed before any of these things could ever really come into effect.
Yep.
Otherwise you're just going to have.
We got to let go of the past too.
Yeah.
Like you got to let go of like these things that motivate you to think a certain way because they happened 100 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to point out anything in particular, but
right.
I do hear people bring up slavery, and it's like no one living today had anything to do with that.
Yeah. In this country.
Correct.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of other countries that, or definitely a few that I know of. There probably more that it happens. But also, too, it's might not necessarily even be like that physical act so much as it is that a lot of the same characteristics of that are still there today. Nowadays, yeah, you get a paycheck, but it's not enough to go do anything.
Oh, yeah, dude. There's a lot of jobs today that are basically fucking indentured servitude.
Right.
Like, you make enough to fucking survive, to go to work, to keep doing what you got to do to survive.
And there's no extra room
paycheck
to do
paycheck.
anything else.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and if anything, you know, God forbid an emergency does come up, you know, like you have to get like your car breaks down or whatever.
Right.
Then you go into debt. So now you're living paycheck to paycheck to please your employer who doesn't care about you.
Right.
At the same time, now you have these debt collectors that are like, dude, you owe us money.
Yeah.
And they don't care about your situation.
Right.
If you try to sympathize with them, they're just like, dude, you know what? Between you and me, I'm in the same situation as you.
Yeah.
I'm living paycheck to paycheck as well. I'm trying to do my job.
Yeah.
So I can do, you know what I mean? And it's just, it's very genius how like you have a lot of like, you know, the people up top of these corporations, they don't have to worry about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But they have their minions fighting for them,
dude.
if you will. They have their slaves that are on the front lines for them, dying for them.
Yeah. Unless you're at the top, you're essentially a slave.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
and
even,
I feel like
even like middle management.
The middle management
probably,
gets probably fucked the most,
right.
you know, because like you said, they're in the same situation as everybody else below them.
But now they don't get the tax breaks and
correct.
They don't get all this other stuff like the deductions and like the child tax credit doesn't apply to them anymore.
Right. Like they did all this to work up to a point where they don't benefit from shit.
But
and
they're not.
The shit still rolls downhill.
They're not empowered enough or even
to make real change.
Believed in enough to get promoted higher within the company.
Right.
Like that's reserved for, this guy over here because he's my nephew or whatever.
Yeah.
You know
he has the same. He's part of my family.
Right.
And they keep it in the family. That's fucking. That's why. When people open small businesses that like become something, they always like hand it down through the family, and then you get these generational like what do they call these fucking people? Where you get like an inheritance.
Oh, like trust fund?
Trust funders. Yeah, you get trust fund babies and shit, and like goddamn, dude, like talk about the weirdest thing. People that have never accomplished anything of significance in their life. But man, do other people fucking envy them and like put them on a pedestal, man.
Right.
Like these are like the kings of social media, essentially.
Well, and I think too, like the problem with that is like, you know, people they're living their life. They see them on social media. They're like yachts and beaches and, you know,
never even
fancy
seen
cars.
a yacht in my life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, me neither.
And I think I do all right. And I've never seen a fucking yacht in my entire life.
But the thing is you have these people that are in this grind that are just getting beaten, like on both ends. Their employer doesn't care about them. They go home and like they have, financial issues always cause, it's the number one cause of like marital issues.
Yeah.
So, they're fighting with their spouse or whatever. They're getting called every day because they owe this other company money and whatever, what have you. And then they go on to Instagram and they're like, look at this kid. He was born into a family that just gave him all this money. He's at the Bahamas right now on a yacht.
Right.
Like I want that life.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that, getting something for nothing is no value.
Yeah. Zero fucking value. Work your ass off and get there yourself, and it's worth way fucking more.
Yeah, perfect example. Everything that I buy myself nowadays, I take the utmost care of it.
You are the perfect example of that exact thing.
Well, yeah, and in some...
No, to the fucking T.
But again, I think that opportunity and timing played a big role in that.
Correct, for sure.
But what I was saying is like, so if I buy my watch or whatever, like I take it such good care of it. I place it down on my nightstand every night, like make sure like, I don't just like throw it on the floor type of thing,
Yeah.
But then like my daughter will like be at the store or whatever. And, we buy her like a little something, we try not to spoil her type of thing, but it doesn't matter what it is. It could be her birthday. She gets something.
It's hard not to spoil your kid when you have the means to spoil your kid.
Right. Yeah.
It's tough. It's like a luxury thing.
And it's not necessarily spoil. Like she wants like a $2 little toy thing. You're like, yeah, that's fine. Like,
right.
What's $2? But then she gets home and she like just throws it on the floor. We bought her this book that she really wanted. She like had to have this book.
Yeah.
So we get home and she's like looking at it, and she's flipping through the pages or whatever. And then she gets up and she walks and she steps right over the middle of this book. It bends this page like really bad. It like cuts it or whatever. And I'm like, what the heck? Like,
right.
Have you no respect for things? And it's like, oh, because she didn't have to work for it.
Yeah.
It was literally like she was walking down the aisle at the store. She's like, that looks cool. Hey, can I have this? Yeah. Okay, cool. That was her hard work for that.
Yeah. And like the concept won't like become apparent to your daughter until like way later in the future.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not.
But it's critical to know that when she's old enough to know those type of things, that she understands the value of work. And obviously you're gonna fucking do that.
Well, one idea that we've had that we've implemented a couple times and then we just don't stick to it is that essentially, because a lot of people, like we saw these things about rewarding like good activities with gold stars or whatever, but how do you like, what's the exchange rate from a gold star to like $1, and I feel like that's just more confusing to like try to manage this sort of currency system.
Right.
So we just said, okay, if you do this, you get $1 or you get 50 cents or whatever. And then we write it on this board. And then if she's at the store, she's like, can I get this? Be like, well, let's see, you only have $4. That's $5. So maybe if you work harder and you do more stuff around the house to help out, you'll get rewarded more, and then you can buy this stuff. Right. Instead of like an allowance where you just get money, it's like you do stuff, you're rewarded with money. Everything has a monetary value associated. So like you pick up your toys without being asked, that's $1, or whatever. Like, I mean, it's hard
you don't throw a tantrum when when we don't want you to fucking throw a tantrum.
Exactly.
That's enough to earn a star in my book.
See, you said star. Like, no, the star. What's a star? Like, it doesn't translate. But
that's enough to earn favor. You're getting plus points.
You get rewarded.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we try to focus a lot of stuff on. But at the same time, too, it's like she's only 4. So it's like you don't want to be too like, oh, you got to hit the grind now, like start working your life away. Right. So I think that's why we don't really stick to it too much, is because we want her to be a kid. We want her to have fun. We want her just to like relax and run around and play, not have to worry about the responsibilities. Like Halloween last year, she I don't know if she saw it like when she got it when she was trick-or-treating or whatever, but it was this one piece of candy or whatever. I don't even remember what it was. But we got home and she was talking about it the whole time. And we got home, she dumps out her pill and she can't find it. And it's just a total meltdown. I mean, like tears running down the face turning red, not breathing,
end of the fucking world.
Like exactly, end of the world. And I just remember I turned to my wife and I said, could you imagine what it would be like if that was your biggest issue in life? Like, if that was your big problem, life. You have it made at that point.
Yeah, you're not walking to the water with a fucking pot on your head, or walking to the river with a pot on your head,
just to try
breaking
to
your fucking neck to get fresh water to drink.
So I mean, it's definitely like perspective is key, and so we definitely like don't want to take that away from her. We don't want her to be like, I've got bills to pay, Dad. I gotta sweep this floor. I got
right. But you don't want her to turn into a fucking millennial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a fine balance.
It's a hard one.
Yeah.
Those scales are hard to balance for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty crazy though that there's definitely a lot of people like that. But I could totally understand why people who've never experienced that, who've never seen a yacht in their life, when they see people like that are just given them, I can totally understand why they're like, man, that must be nice.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, it would be nice.
It would be fucking nice.
But also, if you were like, if someone tomorrow were to come up to you and give you a yacht, you would appreciate it more than those kids that just were born into it.
Oh yeah,
because
for sure.
You have life experiences that, make you realize this is not just anything. This is a freaking yacht here. I appreciate this.
I went 30 years of my life without seeing a yacht.
Yeah.
Now I have one.
Right.
What do I do with it? Take care of that motherfucker.
Right. Or sell it and pay
appreciate what you have.
Sell it and pay off
That's
some
debt. Thing is those type of people, trust funders, they don't appreciate what they have. They just don't know the real value of it. And that's what's tough.
But then again, because we do place as a society so much weight on, if your wealth translates to how it's like a popularity contest.
Yeah.
The more money you have, the cooler you are.
Right.
So then these trust fund kids, they show up in their, whatever Lamborghini, Corvette,
they turn
Mercedes,
it into a competition.
And they just they treat people so bad. Like they'll go to like the store or whatever, and they just talk down to people because they're like, well, who are you?
Plebs.
Yeah.
Fucking plebs.
And so it's just, and then it just perpetuates even more because then you have these people that are just like, this is why I hate the 1%.
Well, that shit also is done in public, which then gets fucking blasted out on social media and news and shit like that. And like, that's where the spotlight is.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so-and-so fucking trust fund kid fucking did this crazy ass shit. Like, watch the YouTube video, and everybody watches the YouTube video, and it's fucking easy to hate on that shit. You know what I mean? And it's just like, but I'm sure there's trust funders out there that do appreciate, like, there's two sides to every coin. There's like the polar opposite in the same situation that appreciate everything that they have and they don't take it for granted.
No, for sure.
You're never fucking hearing about those people.
Right, because they're not the ones. They're not the ones going in and making a scene to where you want to comment about it
or would even know about it.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's the same like philosophy that I have with like the news. It's like we put the news on in our break room and stuff, and whenever I'm getting my coffee in the morning, I'll just like watch it or whatever. And it's like all this stuff is just so negative.
Yeah.
But it's because the good stuff, it's like no one really cares about that.
No one. It's not drama.
It's not reported. Like the cops don't show up to some like person's house because they just did something nice. A cop shows up to someone's house because someone just like murdered their family. You know
but then you see those videos where like the cops like go out of their way to like there was one news article I read that was actually a good story. It was like this 80-something, 90-something year old dude, and his like the cops would always see him out on his front porch and like super hot, and he was always out on his front porch. The reason he was out on his front porch is because his fucking air conditioner was broke. It was like dead of summer. And like the cops finally like stopped because they were like, "Hey man, why are you always out on your porch?" And he was like, "Because it's cooler out here than it is in there," basically. And he explained the situation to him and how he couldn't afford to like get AC. And they're like, "Dude, it's super fucking hot out here. You're gonna like die at your age of sitting out on this porch even." And so they went and bought him a fucking like window AC unit and like installed it and shit. You know? Like that faith restored in humanity stuff, But
and
like,
I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
I think it does happen a lot, but you just don't hear about it as much because then too, in the society we live in, if you were to do the same thing and then post it on social media, now everyone would hate you. Be like, "Oh, this selfless humble brag," type of thing. Like, and we live in such a toxic environment that even good deeds now, people find a reason to be mad at them.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that, like you said, like there's never any like positive news stories. If the news was more positive and only like showed like really bad shit when it was like really bad shit, like, and it was like even a 50-50,
Yeah.
Like it's not, I understand that news, it's all about like like the bad shit brings in views and money because people want to see that, you know?
Yeah.
But then you go on YouTube and you see all these faith restored in humanity videos, and they got like 50 million views too. So
well, and I think
it's not like they don't bring in viewership.
News organizations, they're the coal industry. You know what I mean? They don't want the same thing like why ISPs are trying to put data caps on their internet is because it limits the streaming. So you have to use their stuff, you know, or like you see like some phone carriers are like, you use us and it doesn't count towards your data. It's unlimited streaming to this.
Right.
And it's because it's pushing their product. It's
correct.
It's trying to.
We're not going to throttle you on your Netflix bandwidth, right? Because we're in cahoots with Netflix. Like we're cool with them,
right? And like it's the same thing. It's like if they would evolve, if they would adapt, you would almost get a better result. You know,
they focus less on their profit margins and
stakeholders. But even still, profit margins, they could be greater because, you know, what is
that's what they don't understand.
What does
they
a
want
typical
the
news channel
profits.
Get in views? You know, like
fucking nothing.
Like maybe 1 million.
Maybe 1 million. Maybe.
Right. I'd be surprised if it's higher than that. Like
there's just so many news stations. Right. Like unless you had everybody watching the same one, you're never gonna get the viewers.
You make a YouTube channel and you can expand your reach.
That's why these people
to 10, 15
but
million.
they're opposed to YouTube.
Yeah, they don't want to do it.
You know, like there's a reason why Vice is the #1 news network.
Right.
It's because it's online and fucking. It's like
and they adapted.
They adapted exactly, and like the broadcast stations on television and shit, man, they're going under. TV's dying, like slowly but surely.
And I agree, and I think it needs to. Like I don't like TV. It's commercials are like I've noticed like something like with ads and stuff and commercials. It's just like they're too misguided nowadays.
Jesus.
It's like they just put out like what I know that they try to target demographics based off of the time of day and the channel that it is. But that's a very broad swing, you know?
Yep.
The nice thing about like YouTube, because when people plug stuff in videos, like if they're like, oh, this episode is brought to you by whatever, it's real quick. It feels organic in it. It doesn't bother me. Like, I don't mind that. I'm like, you need to make money. That's fair. And then a lot of times when people push stuff like that, I'll usually go to like their recommendations or, for example, I had to build a website last year and I was like, oh, I know that this person I watch on YouTube, they always plug this website
That's where you're going to go.
And I went there. I used their code. I said, look, I heard good things. I'm going to help you out because I heard it from your thing.
Right.
And so it's a way to like, you know, make sure you promote them and stuff.
Word of mouth, man.
But the fact that like I see like, you know, so many like Viagra commercials, or it's like even this morning in the break room, the commercial was like, if you suffer from erectile dysfunction, I'm like, what is this nonsense going on right now? Like, and I'm sure there are people that do suffer from that.
But they can go seek that help privately and they don't need to watch a TV ad to know that their fucking dick doesn't work.
Right. Or like, you know, the ads that will run based off of your cookies and stuff. Like, you know, if I go to a website and I'm doing a search and then I'm watching a YouTube video or whatever, it's like the ad that pops up is 95% of the website that I just went to. Like if I'm looking for something at Home Depot, an ad will come on. It's like, oh, Home Depot. And it's just like, yeah, I get it. You're using my cookies. You see, I just went there.
Yeah.
So, but that's the way to market though.
Yeah. Targeted advertising.
Targeted advertisement. And it works so much better in that, like,
these motherfuckers listen to us too, man. They probably, we've said so many keywords and phrases right now. Like our phone's listening, and the next week we're gonna see
Home Depot.
Home Depot for sure. Yeah. And a slew of other fucking things.
You said Netflix.
So Netflix is gonna pop up. Yeah. Like that's kind of fucked up if you think about that.
Yeah, it's like an invasion of. Well, that's like one of the things that just. I don't know if it went into effect or if it's going to, but like ISPs now can legally sell your search history to marketing stuff.
Go ahead. I don't really give a fuck.
No, but what I'm saying
I'm already getting bombarded by targeted advertising anyway.
For sure. But what I'm saying is just it's another level of like, well, I don't like that.
Invasiveness. Yeah.
And it's like if it was one thing like you can opt into it, then fine. You know, I think
that.
But also too, I always feel like some of those like targeted ads might be like after the fact. Like if I'm going to a website to find something, I'm usually going to make a purchase then and there. Mm-hmm. And then showing me an ad for that place later, it's like, it does me no good. I already made my purchase.
Right.
You know? And that, I know like there's been so much millions of dollars that have been spent to show like marketing and advertising work.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure it does, but like for me, typically it's like, I don't mind going to a couple different websites, getting different quotes or whatever the case may be, and just going whatever works best for me.
Yep.
Like sometimes I'll try other websites and then I'll go to Amazon and they have it and it might be more expensive, but they have free 2-day shipping, or in some cases 2-hour shipping.
Right.
I'm like, I'll just do that. I'll pay it a little bit more to get it the better service, you know,
regardless of who was the advertising.
Right. And a lot of times, you know, like
company or whatever. One
of the things that I do, like for like my clothes and stuff, I'll go into like department stores, try them on, and whatever fits good in the dressing room, I take a picture of its tag and find it online, because almost all the time it's half the cost or more than like
somebody else has got 20 of them and they're selling them in bulk for a discount rate.
Or they don't have as much overhead.
Dude, like there's a whole fucking industry. Did you know that? Stores, like people go to like Black Friday sales and they'll buy like whatever the fucking max is that you can buy. Like these people do this like not on Black Friday, just like regular
couponers or
like extreme couponers that like buy like shit in bulk while it's on sale and then go back and sell it for full price,
right?
Or just under full price, but like just like minimal profit margins,
right?
And that's how they make their living, dude. Like fucking gaming the system.
But I think like that's the creativity that we were talking about earlier, and that in today's day and age, you don't have to like, you know, go to your traditional 4-year school, go get like a 9-to-5 job to be able to be successful.
Right.
You could literally start filming yourself doing stupid stuff, putting it on the internet, and people will be like, that's funny, I'm going to watch that.
Yeah.
And then that's your job. Or you can go buy things like using coupons and buying a bunch of stuff and then selling it.
Right.
I know a lot of people who make like Etsy pages because they make stuff or whatever. Like one of the guys that I work with, he actually does like woodwork and he makes pens, like custom pens.
Yeah.
And he has an Etsy page and he sells them on there and
turned his hobby into a side job.
And I always think like personally, I'm like, I want to do that, but there's just not enough time.
Yeah.
You know? Like that's the problem is like if you don't want to spend any time with your family, go for it, you know?
Right.
Or if you're in a situation where you have more time to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's there's definitely more options and opportunities. If
it all comes down to work ethic, really.
Yeah.
Like, and motivation. If you got the fucking motivation, you'll do that shit.
But do you think work ethic is something that is like you're born with, or do you think it's something that you learn?
I think you're always motivated by something.
There's always
early
something
on. There's a motivation.
You,
there's always motivation. Work ethic is something that's developed.
Right.
And like that's fine tuning the motivation.
Yeah.
But
right, because like some people, like if you're like, I'll give you $20 to do this, that might not be motivation for them.
Right.
But if you're like, hey, I'll give you tickets to like this game or whatever, or do you know what I mean?
It's all about finding the proper motivation.
Finding what works for people.
Yeah, and then always, I guess that's where goals come into play. Like,
right.
Yeah, if you work hard at shit, you'll be successful, but you're gonna fail a lot too. And that's the thing is like people need to fucking learn how to fail. Yeah. And that's a big problem with fucking millennials is they don't want to fail. They've had a safety net,
right?
And they fucking never fail. And when they do, they crash super fucking hard. And it's like if you failed early on, like it's a whole progressive thing, you know, developmental
participation awards and
all
this stuff.
You need to fucking fail hard, and like the earlier you fail hard, the more used to failing that you'll get.
Yeah.
And as long as you're smart enough to learn from your mistakes, failure is not really failure. It's just a learning opportunity.
I just heard this thing last week from like Will Smith, who was like fail frequently, fail often, and fail forward.
Yeah.
And then he used the analogy that I thought was perfect was like when you're working out, you don't get muscles by like doing what you're comfortable doing. You literally push your body to failure.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how your body adapts and it gets stronger.
Right.
And it's like that's all you're doing, like, but on a maybe more of a mental aspect.
Correct. Yeah, and like prepping, that's a lot of these people can't fucking handle stress either. Like, I feel like I'm a connoisseur of stress. Like, fucking, I've dealt with some serious fucking stress. You know?
Yeah.
But like, you have to put yourself out there into the world and fucking learn how to deal with stress.
Yeah.
In order to like use it to your advantage, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I can think of, you know, because as a person, you know, I like to feel like you're always progressing, always learning, you know. And yeah, you might be forgetting stuff that you haven't thought about in a long time, but hopefully you're replacing that stuff. Like I don't need to remember all the Sunday morning hangovers.
Right.
If I can now learn to remember, you know what I mean? Like replacing the bad stuff with the good stuff, if you will.
Well, you should still remember all the bad shit. Like if
for sure. I was just using it as an extreme example.
Like hangovers, for example. If you're constantly in your 20s drinking and getting fucking hangovers, like, and you don't want to fucking have hangovers anymore, like use the past experiences to remind yourself that hangovers suck dick and you don't want to have one anymore. You know?
Right, but I think that was for a long time in my 20s, like every Sunday morning being like, dude, I'm never drinking. And then like next Friday night, it's like, woohoo, party.
Yep. But, binge drinking is even worse than just staying constantly inebriated.
But I think like thinking back to like those kind of times, like things that were stressful to me then are like nothing now. Like, you know, because as you continue to put yourself out there and progress and whatever. Yeah. I mean, I think of, even I remember when I found out, you know, that my wife was pregnant. I can't even tell you how like scared and like stressful that whole thing was. It was like you're in charge of a human being.
Yeah,
you know?
Dude. I can't imagine.
But now it's like
it seems like it's cake right now.
Yeah, it's just like whatever. It's like
you've adapted to
go do this or go do that, or she falls like you're okay. There's no blood, nothing's broken, you're fine.
Exactly. But like that's the thing is it's like you have to learn from that shit. And the only way to learn from is to experience it. And like in today's culture, like people like I'm so glad I don't fucking deal with this shit. Like I sit here and like I'll complain about these millennials and the millennial ideology and shit, like of the culture of today, but I separate myself from it and live in a bubble. So I don't have to experience it. I'm just aware of it.
Yeah.
But man, like it's counterproductive. So everything around me is fucking in this clusterfuck of safe spaces and political correctness and shit like that. Like you don't want to fucking hurt somebody's feelings and shit. You don't want to cause them stress, so they have safe spaces now that you can go to. And it's like you're fucking that person over by creating a space for them to go where they don't have to deal with stress.
You're creating
anymore.
You're making them a victim. Instead of in the other like alternative, it's like, yeah, okay, they could be in a difficult situation. They learn, they progress, they evolve as a human. They're better for it. Now you're making them a victim. It's a sympathy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The woe is me card.
Right. Well, I think that's the problem too, is like parents are very protective of their children.
Yeah.
As they should be. I mean, you find out a lot of messed up stuff. I mean, I growing up, like, you know, molestation was never like a thing.
Right.
Like I was so fortunate that my family just wasn't that way.
Yeah.
But then I like talk to people I work with and they're like, oh yeah, I was molested as a kid. And I'm like, what? Like, yeah, by like my uncle. And I'm like, what? Like, it just blows my mind that that's like a reality. So I can completely understand, like, parents, you want to protect your children.
Right.
But I've heard this thing recently that after kids that are graduating now, you know, like they're graduating from college, they're trying to use this degree that's really not applicable to anything in the real world. And they go in for an interview and, you know, like in some interviews that I've done, you have kids that had no experience. Like their last job was they're working at like Sears part-time.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, I think I need to be making like $60,000 a year. It's like, okay, yeah, me too. Like good luck with that, you know, like
have fun. That's not what this is all about.
Yeah. This is not that position. And then their parent, this hasn't happened to me, but what I've heard is like parents will then call and be like, why aren't you hiring my kid? They're like this. Like,
you know what you do in that situation? Fuck off. Yeah. Click.
Your child needs some real world experiences.
Don't don't be a shitty parent.
Right.
Like you sucked.
Well, and I think you see like a lot of this stuff is like these safe spaces and these PC stuff. It all happens at like universities and all this stuff.
So weird.
Like get out to the real world and see that doesn't care about your safe space.
That's the thing though, is college used to be part of the real world.
Right. Yeah, that's where you go to get experiences.
It was a transitional period, and it's like no longer a transitional period.
Right.
It's like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
Like you're going to this place where you don't get any social fucking experience out of it, you know, the stressors and all that shit.
You have a lot of, but that's the thing is you have a lot of these people that are like-minded individuals that have similar life experiences by not having any life experiences.
Yeah, basically.
That are trying to come up, like as a collective, they're like, oh, we have strength in numbers. We can do this. We can make this change. We can, you know,
it's like a bunch of retards trying to hump a doorknob.
Yeah. But the problem is that you're never going to find, and that's one thing too, like you were talking about earlier about like you have friends that they support the core of like the BLM.
Yeah.
But they don't like really like some of the stuff that they do.
Right.
I feel like that's how it is for everybody. You know, like there's people that I like. There's like where I get news from that I like a lot. Like I find that I agree with them more than, 50%, if you will.
Right.
But there's definitely a lot of stuff that I don't like about them.
Right.
And that's fine.
Perfectly fine.
It's okay.
Yeah, your world's not going to end
right.
because somebody has a different opinion.
And sometimes they'll say something that I don't agree with, but I'm just like, dude, that's you. You do you. And I'll respect you for that.
Right.
But it's the one that's like, hey, this is what I believe, and now you need to believe this.
You need to fucking
then there's a problem.
Forcing your culture on somebody that doesn't want anything to do with your culture, and it's
just or not necessarily even culture. It could just be like their belief system.
Well, they call it the PC culture, politically correct culture. Everything's a fucking culture now, dude.
Yeah, everything needs a label.
Everything needs a fucking label. Can't just be a neutral person that.
Even when you're neutral, you're taking a stance of being neutral. You know what I mean?
Dude.
Like you have an agenda of being
neutral. Like, try and stay neutral in all aspects.
Right.
But I have to be vocal about things that are just so far from neutral or like, you know what I mean?
They're
in either direction. Yeah. The extremes. Like, and the extremes seem to be like common. Like, if you're not part of this extreme or that extreme and you're in the middle, there's fucking you're a bad guy. Like you're the worst because you're hated by everybody.
Yep.
Because you won't pick a side.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, that's one thing that is hilarious too, is that you'll see someone who makes this comment and then you have one side that's like praising them, like good for you and doing all this stuff. And then they make a comment that team doesn't like anymore, and then it's suddenly like they've always been a bad guy.
Yeah, the tide shift, like,
and it's like
nothing.
It's so bizarre to me. It's like, with I don't know if it's because of the social media or whatever, but
it is. It definitely is.
It's like it's just so crazy. Like I'll wake up or whatever, be on Twitter, or, even on the news they talk about people's tweets now and stuff.
Yeah, and
it's like this is a topic of conversation. It's like this is bizarre.
It's really not.
Yeah,
it's really not.
It shouldn't be, but it is. Like, I don't know. It's weird, but it's all the distraction.
Yeah, dude. There's a bigger game to play here,
right.
And like I think if you're neutral, you see the big game, but you're fucked because there's not enough neutral people to do anything about it.
You don't have the numbers to do it.
Correct.
So you try to be neutral and play to a side that you kind of lean more towards.
Or you bounce back and forth and kind of like play both sides.
You can't bounce back and forth. There's no bounce. You have to commit.
No, dude. You don't have to commit. Like I personally am fiscally conservative, so when it comes to money and shit, I'm fucking super right. Like tax breaks, fucking whatever keeps me financially sound.
Right.
But social issues, I'm super left.
Right.
Like, and I play both those coins. And people are like, I'll sit there and be talking like taxes and fucking money and shit, and then the tides will shift, and like in the same conversation I'll be like, yeah, but I support like I'm cool with the gays, you know what I mean? Like that's whatever.
Let people
to each
people.
their own. They can do whatever they want, and these people that are like that
let
were on board with the
let them
with
have
the
some
taxes
basic human
and shit.
Rights. Yeah.
They were on board with the taxes. They're like, you like the gays? Like I like everybody, man.
Right.
Fuck off.
I've met some really cool gay people.
You're an idiot if that's your stance. Like you're cool with the financials, but you're not cool with like what other people are doing.
But that's what I'm saying
in their
is people
lives.
commit. They commit to a side, and then it's like you get your little pamphlet, and you're like,
do you really
believe this, and this? I don't think they do.
I don't think they do either. I think they know that there's sides, and they're just playing the game. They're just not playing it as well.
Right.
You know, like
they're
faking it.
I heard something that like from I don't know who said it, but it was like one of the senators was like, yeah, I agree with everything you're saying right now. But if I want to get reelected, I know what I have to say.
Yeah.
And
because of where they live and
because
who their constituents are. Exactly.
So they play the game.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
Then you add the whole companies can fucking donate money to these people through lobbying. And it's like, oh, man, once you added money into it, now you fucked everybody.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what your constituents want. You owe this dude a fucking favor. That's the biggest problem. Like as far as
organized crime.
It is, and it's the biggest problem in government. I bet you like the people. Let's see here how to explain this. Republicans want shit to be free and fair and whatnot. Well, blah blah blah, and they're socially conservative and fiscally conservative, and like the lobbying industry benefits them the most, I think,
right.
in a sense, but at the same time it contradicts what they really are after, which is like freedom to do what you want, you know what I mean? And it's like when the dude you elect owes somebody else a favor, he's not doing what you want him to do.
Right, he's no longer your representative.
Correct. And
he's his pocketbook's representative.
Yeah, if you eliminated lobbying, then you would get actual representation.
Right. Well, I think term limits, eliminate lobbying.
Well, yeah, definitely term limits, but lobbying, even if there was term limits, you'd still have people bought and paid for.
Oh, for sure. But I'm just saying, like,
or groups or whatever.
It's like anything, though. There's never one solution. Like, it's almost like things have like.
But lobbying is a massive solution, because then even without term limits, like, as long as that dude's representing what you want him to represent and he's doing what he's supposed to by representing you, like, who cares how long they stay in? Like, that's what that person was.
Yeah, but I feel like that's true, but I think like the term limits would come into effect because if they're spending all their time in Washington and not like in, Kentucky, for example, you're going to be disconnected from what's going on in your community. So
right, but they need to focus on that and make time, you know what I mean?
Right, but what I'm saying is
involved.
But with everything else that goes on in Washington, it's like, how.
But if they're freed up from lobbying and other obligations, they should have the time to go and meet with their constituents.
Yeah, that's true.
So lobbying is the fucking bane of my existence, dude. Yeah. I'll preach that till the day I die. That shit needs to go away.
I think it's just money in general.
I love money, though.
Yeah, it's nice to have things.
It is nice to have stuff. I like my stuff, but...
That's what I'm saying. Could you give it all up to go live in a small tribe?
Dude,
barters
that's the thing is I pray for the day that, like, Walking Dead becomes reality.
Yeah.
Or, like, we invent fucking robots that start killing fucking Robopocalypse type shit, dude.
Oh, we will. Don't you worry.
When that happens... I've already got the pass from the wife. She's like, I'm good. I'll probably not want to live in a world like that, so I'll try and survive as long as I can. But if I die, go on without me.
Wow.
And I'm like, sweet. And basically the understanding is then I'm free to do whatever the fuck I want.
But that's just what they always say. It's like the same thing. You don't have to get me a birthday present this year. And then you don't do it, and then it's like guilty. I mean, like, I can't believe you forgot to give me a birthday present.
I'll try and fucking protect your ass, but like it's apocalypse. People are gonna fucking die. You know what I mean? If that's you, I'm gonna fucking carry on and live. I'm gonna fucking carve my path. Not gonna
make it.
I'm gonna carve out my path, and I'm gonna rule this fucking shit, dude.
Right.
Like, I pray for I'm cool with not using a computer and a phone and shit if that's it's just world. Like barren wasteland, no laws, and fucking killing people is what you got to do every day to survive.
Yeah.
Like
The Road. Have you seen that movie?
The fucking Road. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
it's hardcore.
That shit takes place, dude.
I'm
gonna thrive because I've been sitting here plotting this shit for years.
The second I hear like there's like going to be like a robo-apocalypse or a zombie thing, I'm going to freaking ground zero. I'm like, take me in day one. Like, I don't want to even I don't want to be.
You don't want to
two.
Experience it, dude.
No, I don't want to. I don't want like to be tortured or
I want to
like,
see how long I can survive.
And, like, cannibals eat me and stuff. I don't want any of that.
I want
to die so people be like, when did you go out? It's like, oh, when I went out, there was still like internet and stuff. We had grocery stores. It was pretty sweet. Like, I don't want to live in that
I
world.
fought tooth and nail and had to eat 5 dudes to stay alive.
Yeah, no, I don't. Can't be asked. That's too much work.
Dude, I'll camp. I'll hunt. I'll do whatever, man.
Yeah.
That shit would be fun.
You think it'd be fun?
I think it would be fun, dude.
I don't think so.
Taking
it's
it
dirty.
back.
There's no shit. There's no showers.
Whatever, dude. No one cares. No one cares. Everybody that you're trying to impress is dead.
Yeah.
There's nobody to impress.
I just feel dirty just talking
about
that,
dude. Who cares? You can be as dirty as you. That's why, like, cavemen were so fucking dirty, because everybody was fucking dirty.
Right.
Like, dirty's like a concept that came along during society, like the development of society.
Physically, I feel gross.
Who cares, man? As long as you're fucking healthy and alive and not getting sick.
And you know what? Take me out day one. I'll be healthy and alive.
Being exposed to the dirt and fucking all that shit, your immune system's going to be thriving.
Oh, yeah,
you're going to be impenetrable, dude. You'll never get sick.
Except by bullets.
Fuck, dude. Just have more bullets. Just have more bullets.
You get a paper cut and you die from infection because there's no penicillin around.
Like, you can just walk down to the fucking empty-ass Walgreens and jack all the shit you need.
You don't think that people aren't going to... Like, that's gone. Like, with how quickly...
But it's not going to be consumed.
Like there's a storm coming, so people are looting. Like people are already looting like Walgreens.
Yeah, but guess what? They're just like taking it from one location and putting it in another location. Yeah, they're not necessarily using it at that time. So now you just got to go find it. So it's just one big scavenger hunt.
Yeah, I don't want to play that.
Dude, it'd be so fun.
I'd miss my king size bed. My
dude, just break into a house and sleep in whatever fucking bed you want.
Yeah, I don't know what they did.
Those people are gonna be dead.
My bed.
Who cares?
They might have died in that bed.
Who cares, dude? Just roll the bodies off and fucking sleep in it, dude. If we're ever in a situation like that, like that's where what it comes to, like pushing dead bodies off a bed and sleeping in it.
Yeah,
it's the least of your fucking concerns. That's like the whole if the fucking candy being gone is the end of the world, like. Yeah. No. This is a whole new perspective. Like priorities change.
Yeah.
Let's see here, Drill. Let's do an intermission real quick. Pause it.
All right. Well, I think that should be pretty good for today.
Yep.
I think we'll be good with that. We'll post this up online somewhere, and then we'll be back in, what were you thinking, like a week, 2 weeks?
Gonna do probably like a week or 2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Twice a month.
Yeah. Well, everyone listening, thanks so much for joining us for the first ever episode.
Muchas gracias, senores and senoritas.
I hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you guys feel like there's anything you want to contribute, please let us know. We'll definitely try to incorporate comments, suggestions, feedback.
Yeah, address it. It'll be good.
Yeah.
Like, bring it up.
Sweet.
On the next podcast. So, yeah, everybody, have a good time. Latest. Deuces.